Hey there, welcome to the Weird Wide Web podcast. I'm Lindsay B. Goddard, and I'm here with my co-host, Casey Hill. Say hi, Casey.
Hey guys.
She's here for mental support and moral support, and she'd be here for physical support if we could be together, because I'm a little bit nervous. I've never hosted a podcast. But you said you've done some podcasting in the past, did you?
Yes, I have been a co-host on the Nerd Zone podcast, and I've been on, oh Lord, what was it called? Oh my gosh. They'd hate me if they knew I forgot
Probably
the name of their
ago.
podcast.
It's just say it's so long ago. That's what I always say. Well, I've had some bad luck already with the podcast because I love our title, Weird Wide Web. I mean, we've got weirdwideweb.org. But I discovered, okay, so I bought weirdwideweb.org. It was probably January of 2020. It was right before the pandemic. And I had always kind of planned on doing this sort of thing, but pretty much so far I only used it for blog articles. Well, now that I decided to do a podcast, we find out there's another weird wide web. But when I brought this to our other co-host, Susie, Susie Lockhart, who's going to join us sometimes, her advice was this. She said, Lindsay, who cares? You're Lindsay B. Goddard. And this is how she builds me up, because in reality, nobody knows who Lindsay B. Goddard is. But move overworld, I'm Lindsay B. Goddard, and we decided to keep the name Weird Wide Web Podcast. So that's what we're doing. We're going forward. And this has happened to me in the past, too. I actually have dirtylittlehorror.com. I know that sounds dirtylittlehorror.com. And I started that in 2015. And I procrastinate. I never got around to doing much with it other than the blog articles. But there ended up being a podcast with that same title, too. I heard it's pretty good. So hopefully nobody hates on me if we have, a similar title. But we're doing our own thing over here. So we're good. I think we'll be good with this. And that was my little rant about the title. Sorry about that.
It's going to be totally fine. I'm pretty sure there are multiple podcasts out there with the same name and everything like that. So,
right. And if anybody needs us, we're weirdwideweb.org, because at the time when I tried to buy .com, even though there was nothing there, I don't know if there was like a dispute over the ownership, but I couldn't get .com back in the day when I tried to get it. So if anybody's looking for us, you can always find us at weirdwideweb.org, just so you know. All right. Well, we were kind of tossing around ideas with what to do with the first episode, and I found out that everybody on staff is a poet.
Hey, they say poetry is the hardest thing to market, and all I ever see is poets out there. Like, half of my friends list is poets, and I'm like, how is this so hard to market when we're all poets?
So many poets, and I didn't even know it.
Oh, that rhymed.
I'm sorry. And you have, I don't know how I missed your Facebook page because you're so active and there's so much interaction. I just found out recently that you have a whole poetry Facebook page, and it's great. You want
Yes.
to toss out a little plug for it? Tell people where to find it?
I am Tattered Wings Poetry, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under the same handle. I started my page in 2017, and when Facebook rolled over the new profile visibilities and everything, I started climbing in followers. So
Yeah, you've got a ton.
yes, like, I have a lot of poetry books. Like, I'm pretty sure there's, like, 8 or 9 poetry books out by me, maybe 10, I don't know. I don't know if I count them all.
That's best not to count. Just keep moving forward and keep putting out.
Well, I mean, for the one series, I have to count because it's literally a series. I have the like, my page is actually the series for my book, so I have the Tattered Wings Poetic Series.
By the very definition, you must keep a number on each one. Well, that's great. So I have a few poems I said I would read for people, and I'm kind of wondering why I offered to do this on the first episode because I've got nerves in my belly. But I'm going to try. I'm going to do the best I can because these are some people I really admire, uh, colleagues that I've had for years, but who have stepped forward to help me out with Weird Wide Web. We've got a writing contest going on. There's a $75 first prize, and the prizes go on from that. There's 4 places you can win. And we've had an ongoing blog, but now we have a new article writer on the blog. And obviously, we have a podcast. And this is so exciting to have a team of weird little people. I
Oh, it
always wanted
totally
that.
is. Yes, yes. Weird is my thing.
Well, I'm going to go ahead right into trying to read this poem and trying to do it justice because it's so beautiful and moving. And this is one by Susie Lockhart. She's kind of my writing friend BFF. So maybe I'm biased in my opinion, but she's a fantastic writer and colleague, and she's going to be actually helping me co host sometimes on this podcast. And so this is one by Susie Lockhart called Disenchanted. Unmatched clarity in turquoise waters, she swims unhindered by the burden of humanity. Treasures she collects from the world above. Ignorance is her curse. Love she finds as the breaking waves crest, delivering to her a man. He hears her siren's call, beauty from a place found only in his fantasies. Desire fills him as the mermaid desires humanity. What one will do for love, that is the greatest tragedy. Trading celestial voice and sea nymph tale for the chains of mortality, for the love that vanishes with time. Glorious viridian fins flutter away, traded for limbs, traded for legs to be spread open, traded for intimacy that is only an illusion, unaware that she will be sucked dry. Both body and mind ripped apart throughout years of mortality, until her spirit is broken and her soul is warped. Whims of the prince thrust upon her. Now she stands at the water's edge, watching the majesty of cresting waves beneath the blazing sun, hearing the siren's call, briny taste in her mouth, yearning to drink from the cup of her youth once more. Poor mermaid, there is no going back to the sea. So, that was Susie's poem.
Very deep, very deep.
I love it. She had this published previously in Siren's Call.
An excellent
I've had a few
easing.
things. Mhm. Yeah, they've got some longevity because, I mean, I think I had something with them 10 years ago.
I
And
had
they're still at it.
something like I think maybe 3 years ago published with them.
Yeah. I still read them. I still pick it up. So I hope I did that one justice. I get a shaky voice, but we got to get past this. That's why I've dragged you co-hosts into this with me, because I've always wanted to podcast. I listen to podcasts all the time. I don't know. I think that's becoming more of a popular thing because when I used to say that 5, 6, 7 years ago, people would kind of look at me like, okay, whatever. But now when you say that, people are like, oh, I love podcasts. So since I've always been a fan, it kind of was sitting in the back of my head. I've always wanted to do something like this. So
Yeah, I
doing it.
remember when podcasts like kind of started taking off a little bit. And like this was when I was in college though. This was like 17 years ago with me listening to my first podcast. And like people were like, "What's a podcast?" I think they even put it in Supernatural too, like Sam and his podcast that he listens to. So like, yeah, podcasts have come a long way.
17 years ago, you were podcasting, huh? Well,
I
you were
was
listening.
I was listening, yes.
So hip. See? That's why you're my friend. You're so hip. You're ahead of your time. Well, I do want to mention we are also kind of seeking submissions for the podcast. My plan is I kind of always say anything weird, and that doesn't really narrow it down enough for people because let's face it, there's a lot of weird stuff in this world. So we're going to kind of focus on if you have a weird flash fiction story you think I might be interested in, send it in, or the dark poetry. I'm not done yet today reading dark poetry. We've got some weird poems coming up. I'm looking for guests. I've had some people working on maybe horror movies that might be interested in coming on and talking to me, but also just anyone maybe with a weird or unique sort of artistic lifestyle or, anything that you want the world to know about, you know, just send me an email. You can find information on our email address by going to weirdwideweb.org. And on the menu, you just click podcast, and that page will have the email address for you there. So we'll just see where this podcast goes. I keep saying that, but that's because the possibilities are endless here, aren't they?
Yes.
As long as it's weird.
Weird. Hashtag weird.
Weird. Yeah. So, let me see. I'm trying to think if I want to go right into another poem because I think I will. Because we have a great blog article writer on board. His name is William Bovey. And I have known him for a long time just because he's kind of a local in the local scene. And, well, he's into everything horror, and that's a small circle locally. So we've run into each other. So when he approached me with a great interview with Barbie Wilde. She played the female Cenobite in Hellraiser 2. And he just had this sitting on deck, waiting for someone to publish him for it. And it was a great interview. And Barbie Wilde, she was a wonderful interviewee. She gave such engaging answers. So I brought him on board immediately. I said, that was a wonderful interview. So then he sent me some poems to look at, and I did pick a couple that I wanted to read for you guys today. First one, these are by William Bovey. First one's called Laid to Rest. The night she expired, I set her body to fire and watched the old bat burn. All went to ash, even her soul made a flash, but her heart just wouldn't turn. So I picked up her heart and filled it with ash, an act that made my stomach churn. As the heart still held blood, I drank down the sludge and became her living urn. Yuck. That's I love that. I love horror poetry, horror comedy, anything catchy that's also gross. So speaking of also gross, here's another one by William Bovey, and it's titled Leftovers. I love to hunt the graveyard for a favorite midnight snack. Drag out the coffin and exhume the body, then give the old corpse a whack. The brain is gooey and the guts like stew. Spoon up the entrails like soup. It's filled with spiders and tasty things that bite. If you're lucky, I might save some for you. Oh, William Bovey, what's wrong with you? Why'd you write such stuff? No, I love that. I love those. Thank you for sending those in. I love to be able to read those and gross everybody out. That was great. What do you think of those, Casey?
I would like to warn people not to eat brains, though. Okay.
Oh, no. Don't tell me you have experience.
Oh, well, I don't have experience eating brains, no.
Okay.
But like,
you really sold me on that because you sounded like you knew what you were talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about because eating brains can kill you.
That's true. Isn't that where Mad Cow came from or something?
Not like animal, like not animal brains or anything, but if you eat human brains in specific, it gives you a disease in your brain that kills you.
I've had enough of humans in life. I definitely don't want to eat them after they're dead.
Right. I don't know. I've been considering it, I can't eat anything else right now. I'm like, he's looking mighty tasty right now.
Although I did have a strange conversation with an author friend recently in which we both discovered that if we were to die in the house with our cats in it, we wouldn't mind if they ate us because, I mean, we're not alive and they got to eat, right?
I will tell you, when I first began publishing in 2016, I published Corey Klein's story about a cat that ate its owner. Okay. And like that kind of like, you know, I'm a little bit messed up in the head after reading that one. So I don't know if I would like to be eaten by my pet after reading that one.
I actually listened to a podcast of a story like that. I'm not sure which podcast it was, and I probably wouldn't drop another name of another one on here. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, I remember I'm having a flashback of that and kind of picturing it because the person in this story that I'm thinking of, they weren't dead. That was the catch. They were just sort of paralyzed and laying there while their cat munched on them.
I'm pretty sure it might be the same story. Like, I am being serious right now. His story, that sounds kind of like his story, like the cat attacked.
Oh man, we're both scarred by the same story and we didn't even know it. See, that's the power of fiction, I'm telling you. And that is why no matter how I try to start a blog or a website with some kind of other theme, it always ends up sort of coming back to the fiction because those are the people in and out of my life who they say, well, I have a weird story or I have a weird poem, and they put themselves out there and they want to be part of it. And like I said, I'm going to welcome all sorts of topics and guests, but it always comes back to horror fiction and weird fiction. I love those people.
We are a rare breed.
We are. And I think we're, you know, obviously there's things that pop up quite frequently that we all hear about, but I think on the whole, we're a good lot of people.
I concur.
So I I'm having second thoughts about reading my own poetry. I don't know why. I might just move straight on to yours because I've always been that way. I like I'm attending an author convention in October and I received the email about do you want to be on any of the panels or, stand up with the microphone and do this or that, and I'm just going to be a spectator because I had to deliver a speech in front of the class in college and it didn't go well.
Well, how
I
about
always kind
I
of feel
read?
like,
How about I read your poem?
well, that we could set that up for, or I could send it over to you. But I think I was trying to make a roundabout point about how I always feel more comfortable reading other people's things because it's putting yourself out there less. Like reading a speech that you wrote, or because in college it was a paper that I had written. Obviously, I wasn't plagiarizing someone else. Or today, the idea of reading my own poem. Something about that sends me screaming and running out the door more so than reading somebody else's work. I was just kind of pondering, reflecting on this podcast about why. I'm not sure. Are you kind of like that at all, or did you ever have
um
to get up and like deliver a speech you made or something?
Well, I was in oral communications class in college, so yeah, I had to. And then like they wanted to hear the soundtrack of one of the songs that I had written that was demoed to be picked up. So that was a little bit of an embarrassing moment. I think I did it in high school too, because I'd done it in high school. So in my English class, of course, they wanted to hear the song. So like, yeah, putting yourself out there is a little bit frightening. But in like 2018, I was part of the Horror Authors Carnival, and that was part of the deal of being part of that group of people, as we had to go live once a week. And I'm not a camera person at all. I hate the camera. So it was every time. It didn't matter how many times I did it. Every time right before, I always got nervous. I'm like shaking, sweating. I'm like, ah, my makeup. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it
I
is
cannot even
challenging.
imagine if we were on I don't mean to interrupt, but if we were on video right now instead of just this headset, I don't think I could do it. So I feel you on that.
Yeah.
I'll get on TikTok and act a fool for some reason. I will get on TikTok and just make a fool of myself just for the fun of it. But that's different though. That's not live. You can erase that. So,
Right, right.
but this headset. I keep fidgeting with this headset, and it's really giving me flashbacks to working in a call center because I thought about a horror story from both ends. I thought about writing one where you call this call center and, well, we've all actually experienced it. You don't get anywhere. They just keep transferring you. But obviously, there'd have to be a supernatural catch to it. But I also thought about writing a story about the hell of working in a call center because I did not enjoy that job. So uh, I keep nervously fidgeting with my headset and thinking, well, why didn't I write that story? Maybe I will. I kind of always thought, don't you think it's a horror story every time you have to call a call center and it's the type of place you just know they're going to transfer you 100 times, put you on hold, and probably the call will disconnect before your problem is resolved? Ugh.
It is very infuriating to me. Like, I get so mad on the phone. I become like
Yeah.
this angry person. My husband will be like, "You need to chill." I'm like, "Well, they're not listening to me right now."
I feel that. Well, I'm going to actually read the poem you sent me because I know you have just a million poems available. And so I don't know what made you decide to send this particular one, but I immediately loved it. And I'd love to read it. You ready for me to read your poem?
Yes.
Okay. Bury me in a garden of bones where souls reach out with harrowed moans. Wrap me in silk and lay me to rest with whispered promises and deep breaths. And fill my grave with lilacs and tulips, and feed the darkness slowly brewing. For the moonlight beckons me to breathe, and tries to awaken my buried memories of hallowed reverie and haunted nights, of stolen sighs and sultry lies, as fire and ice wrapped me in bliss with a siren's kiss upon my lips. And as I blued from poison drips, my rosy cheeks grayed in quips, and a hand reached out from my aching soul to lead me away from the horrors untold. And I walked with death, but not in fear, and I watched the moments play out queer. The moment my fate had been sealed, and by your hand I would be killed. Now here I am stripped bare in frigid air, as your hands brush the dirt from my hair, and you leave me in this chaotic state, a single sound I cannot make, alive inside, screaming to be heard, but the silent sorrows echoed and turned, eyes wide open but grayed with death, as I quietly plead for one more breath. That is terrifying and moving, and I love it, Casey.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm definitely gonna have to show my support and pick up one of your books because that's what we do. I just noticed that the other day. I made a few book sales to an author friend of mine, and I wasn't even thinking about it this way, like in the terms of paying it forward. I had just already been planning to buy a book from another author friend of mine. But when I sat there later in the day and thought of it, I thought it went right down the chain because I made a book sale and then I bought a book. And that's how that works. So I think I'll buy one of your books, was my point. Um, let's see. I think I will probably do my poem, but I wanted to go back again to the writing contest that we're having right now. I really want to show my gratitude and say thank you to everyone who has submitted because, there can only be 4 winners. And we have received over 100 submissions. But I'm going to tell you this right now, even though we can only pick the 4 winners. The submissions reader I brought her in for a reason. She's a bookworm, she is smart, and she's not going to be biased. She doesn't run in our circles. She doesn't care who wrote the story. She's reading the story to find a great story. And I hadn't even sent her a third of the submissions that we received, and she was messaging me saying she was so surprised at how fantastic the quality of these stories we are receiving. You never know what you're going to get, and apparently, I know some pretty good writers, and I'm pretty proud of that. Even if just by association, because the word got out there, everyone was sharing, and I think we're going to have some great winners, and I really appreciate everyone who's entered. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about that. And, I keep saying we're going to close to submissions because we are only two people reading. Although Susie Lockhart did say she'd rescue us if we got in too deep, and I will hold her to that. But we're still open right now. If we get too many and we feel overwhelmed, we are going to close. But if you're interested in the writing contest, go to weirdwideweb.org and check it out. We're still taking stories. Hey, Casey, did you ever? Because Casey was wondering, she was interested in submitting a story before I roped her into podcasting with me, and that's totally fair because you're not a submissions reader. You've got nothing to do with it. So if you want to send me a story, send it.
I have been debating on it too, and lately has been pretty chaotic for me in the writing world, and I even
Yeah.
backed out
Yeah.
of submitting a story to a charity anthology that someone else is actually running and I'm just publishing, but I just didn't feel like I should put my submission into that anthology just because I was the publisher and the backlash
Was
I
that
would
the Devil's
receive.
Playground?
No, the Devil's Playground is mine. That one's totally mine.
Okay.
And I wasn't even planning on doing one. I actually had posted up a post asking if anyone knew of any drug addiction charity anthologies that was accepting horror because I now have a floating story, out in the wild because of anthology that I was going to be a part of that I'm no
Yeah.
longer going to be a part of. So, and then people in the comments were like, you should do the anthology. And I'm like, I mean, I went ahead and went forward with it, but one of the main reasons why I wanted to find an anthology was because of, oh, she's publishing herself. And it's like, that's why I send it to people to read. Like, is this good? Does it need anything? Because I don't want to seem like that kind of person.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I find that in this industry, and I am going to call it an industry and not a hobby because sometimes we do make money, and I know people who do, and sometimes I do. I don't know. I used to call it a hobby, and I've talked myself through that. This is my career. This is an industry, and I'm going to say I think what matters in this industry is just having an enduring integrity and having morality and sticking to it because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. People sometimes frown upon editors including their own story in an anthology they're putting out. But on the flip side, I have read some anthologies like that, and sometimes the editor's story is the best one in the lot because they were the one with the dream and with the vision, and I guess they just hit the nail on the head. So, just write the best work you can. You can't please. You just cannot please the rumor mill and this social media climate. It's so scary. But that one mess that you referred to that we will not talk about any further, it left a lot of stories up in the air. And I feel you on that. You deserve to place that story somewhere. And honestly, if you want my honest opinion, I wouldn't think anything of it being in the Devil's Playground. I think I'm going to send a story in for it because I believe in the cause, and I believe a lot of people turn a blind eye to what addiction really is, and they think it can be swept under the rug because it's a certain kind of person, and it's not. It's all of us. It's a human problem, and I think any anthology working toward donating any amount of money toward that is honorable, and you should do what you want with your story. And there's my TED talk on that.
Well, thank you for your TED Talk.
I never watch TED Talk. I just hear other people refer to what they just said as a TED Talk. I've caught some episodes in the past, but I'm gonna be
I'm
honest. I don't watch it.
I was gonna say, like, I haven't even seen episodes of it, so yeah.
I only watched ones that were specifically relevant to topics I wanted to hear because that's how I am. Um, well, let me see. We've been on about half an hour, and I really feel like with a podcast as a listener, I don't really want them to go on for an hour. I have a life to get back to. So I think I might read my poem and then wrap this thing up. What do you think of that?
That sounds good to me.
Okay. Well, this one is available in my collection called Head Trip, and it is called Chimney Creep. There's a woman who lives in my chimney, a fire we mustn't blaze. She's always there, never once leaves, starving and filthy for days. Or maybe she hungers for nothing, aside from her hiding spot, her naked body slick with soot. A fire? No, we cannot. I see the wood pile you carry. I know you've brought matches as well. But we cannot disturb the woman. I think she's hiding from hell. I caught a glimpse of her one day when I dared to peer inside. Her hair was a mess of tangled knots. Ash covered her wrinkled hide. Sometimes at night I hear her, the steady scratching sound of broken, blackened fingernails clawing up and down. I'm tired of the sleepless nights as the woman creeps in my flue. She's been here since I bought the place. I don't know what to do. I see the look upon your face. You want to build a fire. Don't set that wood inside the pit. Don't make my voice raise higher. Put down the lighter fluid. Don't dare ignite a flame. You spark a match and toss it in, thinking this all a game. Soon come the anguished wails, beyond the hearth, inside the flue. Screams fill the room and blow out the fire, once burning so hot and blue. Her old bones rattle as she climbs down, pulls herself out onto the brick. Her flaming head locks eyes with you, and you know this isn't a trick. So that was my weird poem about a lady who lived in my chimney. She didn't really live there, but
I have to say that this piece reminds me of the short story The Yellow Wallpaper, where the woman that is crawling around of the nights on the floor is actually her self, and she has like this split personality, and she gets locked away inside of her mind behind bars during the story, and that's her actually being physically locked away in her mind while her split personality comes out to play. So like I could see the imagery of this as the woman in the flue actually being the person, the narrator of the actual poem.
Casey, you are so spot on. I will not get into details about what I was going through in life when I wrote this, but I did. I kept hearing the rattling, of the wind. It was just the wind moving the metal mechanisms of my chimney, but life was particularly dark and dreary, and I had a lot of my own self to face and to deal with and to sort out, and that probably was who was lurking in the chimney. It was probably me. So you're right about that. Very, very acute. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's probably enough weird stuff for today. Do you think?
I feel like we can end this one, and if feedback will tell us if, hey, we want more. So
Plus, I'm eager to listen to my own voice and see if maybe I can stop mentioning being nervous if I really pull it off. Maybe I sound really confident and cool, and I just
you
don't
do.
know it.
You do.
See, I knew it. And I know when I play this back, I'm going to be like, you know what? Lindsay B. Goddard. That must stand for Lindsay. Boy, she's cool.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, Casey, I am so happy that you came on here with me today because I would never podcast alone. I just feel like, I don't know, I've got to bounce things off of someone, and this really works. I think you're like my sister from another mister or something. I don't know.
I am the same, actually. Like, I feel like I ramble a lot, and I actually do just talk to myself at the house, so I know I'm crazy. So, like,
We're
I
all
understand
crazy.
that.
We're all crazy at weirdwideweb.org. And if you want to be crazy with us, check out weirdwideweb.org. We've got a writing contest going on. We've got blogs that we post. This podcast we're going to keep on putting out. And I want to say thank you to you, Casey, for joining me. And I will podcast with you next time.
I can't wait.